Hey, good morning, y'all. Josh's Severe Weather. Happy Tuesday to you. We've got a major storm getting ready to take shape here for the weekend across the central U.S., moving northeastward across the eastern seaboard here Sunday into early next week. And this is going to cause some severe problems for us between flooding and severe weather on the warm side of the storm and much colder, windier, and snowier weather here with potential blizzard conditions on the northwest side of this storm as it moves up into eastern Canada here later this week and into early next week. So I'm going to talk about that here in the coming slides here, the potential for just a quickly deepening storm system that's going to crank up the wind machine here and cause some major power outages, especially around the Great Lakes and potentially the Northeast here later on this weekend. We also have the threat for severe weather and a few tornadoes, especially in the deep south, but even all the way up the East Coast here on Sunday, as we have warm air getting quickly transported northward, moisture drawing northward. Not really a wintry field of things here, kind of more of a quick moving rainstorm field of things, and the potential for severe winds all the way up into upstate New York here later on this weekend. So quite a dynamic storm system set to take shape here. Still some uncertainty on exactly where the worst of the weather is going to be, but we're starting to see a little bit more agreement in the models today on the timing of this system and how it's going to impact much of the United States. Now, here is where the storm is beginning to circulate over the Gulf of Alaska. You can see an atmospheric river here pounding the northwest into Western Canada on the subtropical side of things here. Just a powerful jet stream here pounding the northwest, and potentially some major flooding expected on some of the rivers here in Washington State, British Columbia, Northwest Oregon. This is all going to move eastward and east-southeastward over time. And as you look here from pivotalweather.com at the upper level chart, you can see the main circulation is here over the Gulf of Alaska. There's a piece of energy diving around the western side of it here over the Bering Sea. That's going to move down through the Aleutian Islands and move down into the northwestern United States here on Thursday. And as that digs southeastward here, it's going to carve a much stronger trough Friday into Saturday over the western United States. Two pieces to it. The first one lifts through the Dakotas. It'll bring some snow with it to the prairies here on Friday. The second piece, as it dives down into the southwest, is going to pick up the moisture and the instability here over the Gulf states here over the weekend and produce severe weather with it. And as it continues to dig down, the winds aloft are going to strengthen with it, and the tilt of the trough is going to become negative. And what that means is that we see more warm air getting involved in it, more deepening of the surface cyclone here on Sunday and Monday, and a quickly evolving, quickly strengthening storm system that races up through the Great Lakes into eastern Canada by the beginning of next week. So this is going to be a pretty nasty storm for a lot of us. You look at the United States right now and things are relatively quiet. We see a lot of high clouds over the subtropics here, moving through the Gulf and through Florida. And there's actually a bit of a weakness here that is moving through portions of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley today. And I will show that to you guys here. So get my pen out. See, there's kind of this max right here around the Chicagoland area that is going to move eastward and east-southeastward and produce some areas of some light to moderate snow here over the next 36 to 48 hours. We'll see a little bit of that here over parts of the Northeast, and we'll see more of it here over the Smokies and the Blue Ridge Mountains, and a little bit of snow moving through parts of the Great Lakes. So kind of three different areas of snow to watch. While our main feature here is just starting to move into the Pac Northwest. This is the atmospheric river bringing in lots of moisture with it, tremendous amounts of rain, some wind as well with it, and heavy mountain snow. But these snow elevations in the Northwest are all the way up to about 9,000 feet. So not really truly a winter storm, more of a late fall-like storm, as you might imagine. But that storm is going to drop down into this part of the country, and we're going to see it cutting off in here on Friday night and Saturday, and then tracking up through the Great Lakes. On the northwest side of things is where we could see heavy snow, and it may not get all the way down to St. Louis, but we'll have to see. But on the south side of that, we're going to see moisture transport up this direction. Winds are going to pick up as we see high pressure shifting east, bringing around a return flow out of the south and southwest. And the stronger the low pressure system gets, the more the wind is going to occur. And that could cause some problems here as we see that pileup of wind on the front end of the storm and a pileup of wind on the back end of the storm here Sunday night into Monday. So very dynamic storm system taking shape here. We've got a few days before the details get ironed out, but I do want you guys to all be aware of what's potentially in the making here. Now, here's a look at the short term. So we're We're going to jump back a bit before we jump forward. And you can see we do have a weak low pressure system moving through Illinois. That's going to move into Ohio around 4 o'clock this afternoon. And we're going to see some light snowfall over the Great Lakes region and some light rain, probably no thunder this time, over the Ohio River Valley states. As this hits the mountains of West Virginia and North Carolina and East Tennessee, we will see snow accumulating here, especially this evening, and maybe some heavy snow as winter weather advisories are in effect. We're also going to see just enough instability for some light to moderate snow in a few places here in western New York, around the Great Lakes, as well as over eastern Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire. So Boston will actually pick up potentially a little bit of snowfall heading into tomorrow morning's rush. That could cause a little bit of slippery roads and a little bit of delays in the Boston area tomorrow morning. But the main low pressure system is actually going to jump to the coast and form over the Gulf Stream. And that could produce some light rain showers here over the eastern Carolinas later tonight, but no snow, as the boundary layer is going to be a little bit too warm for that. But a little bit unsettled tomorrow, cloudy, just a chilly day over the eastern U.S. tomorrow before we start to rebound as the storm moves out. But it may take until early in the day Thursday to get the snow to wind down in parts of West Virginia, the Laurel Highlands, the Allegheny Highlands, and western Maryland. And you can see there's a little bit of energy moving in behind this along our warm front here over the Georgian Bay region, over Lake Ontario, and over the Canadian provinces here early on Thursday. Then the red lines move our way. And what that means is that warmer air returns, and we're going to have a mild end to the week and weekend across the eastern United States. So heating up across Florida, where we could certainly use rain, but we're not really going to see it until later on this weekend. Here's a look at some snow totals in the short term. Before we get to the big storm, let's look at the short term. And you can see not a lot, but maybe a little bit of snow north and east of Cleveland that could put down a quick inch or so. Just a scattering of generally less than half an inch over the rest of northern and central Ohio. Taking a look here farther back to the west, I should have started here. The Chicagoland area, we may see a quick inch in the western suburbs, even the southwest suburbs here. And the time frame on that's going to be mainly this morning, then spreading into Indiana later this morning, and then into Ohio this afternoon. Same goes for lower Michigan and far southern parts of Wisconsin. I'll zip back to the north and west to show that to you. Again, it's not going to be much, but enough to maybe dust the ground and cause some slippery roadways here this morning. Here's a look farther south and east. Oh, sorry about that. And we will see snow accumulating in West Virginia today. We'll see some more snow up on Beech Mountain and Sugar Mountain here this afternoon. But most of the snow is going to fall along the Tennessee-North Carolina border up to Mount Rogers here this evening. And we could see amounts that get up close to 8 or 9 inches on LeConte, on Clingman's Dome, on the Smokies here right on the border. Heading farther up towards Avery County, Watauga County, 1 to 3 inches of snow. Again, a lot of this is elevation dependent, but Boone will probably see some snow. East of Johnson City and Kingsport, we're going to see a little bit of snow as well. Roan Mountain could see 3 to 6 inches, and some pretty high amounts here as well. Over the ski areas of West Virginia, maybe locally 6 to 8 inches of snow will fall. Not all of this would accumulate. I think probably 80% of it probably will, but enough to see obviously slippery travel and snow-covered roads. And this should start winding down here by tomorrow evening. Looking across the Northeast, we'll see some snow in our favorite areas here. Route 90, I think it is. Erie, Jamestown, or maybe this is 88, I apologize. We're going to see light snow potentially in northern and western Center County, Clearfield County as well, maybe just west of Altoona. But generally speaking, amounts will be less than an inch, except in your higher elevations here. We'll also see a little bit of snow across the Poconos, across central New York State as well. And it's going to come in waves here right through tomorrow morning before things start winding down in the afternoon. And finally, let's head over towards New England, at least southern New England. A little bit of snow in the Catskills here today. And then in the Boston area, we're going to see that snow coming around midnight tonight into the early part of the day tomorrow. And maybe somebody picks up a quick inch of snow if you believe the NAM model. And the NAM can be a little bit aggressive sometimes. But nonetheless, I want you all just to be prepared for this snow, which may be our first snowfall for some of us here across eastern Massachusetts of the winter season. First of hopefully many for those of you that missed out last winter, which was most of you guys. So we're going to see most of that snow coming this afternoon, tonight, and especially first thing tomorrow. So now let's take a look at our next storm moving in. You'll see after this trough moves through the east here tomorrow, We see a ridge of high pressure building over the central US. That's this big climb in our upper level heights up at 500 millibars. Then you see the next piece of energy moving into the West Coast on Thursday into Friday. And you'll see that this trough is going to dig down to the south and winds aloft are going to pick up. Kind of a classic setup for severe weather as we get to the weekend here. You can see the trough kind of hangs back, picks up energy over New Mexico and Texas. Winds get up over 100 knots. It's about 115 miles per hour here at about 20, 30,000 feet. And you can see the flow out of the southwest. And as we get later into the weekend, you'll see the base of this slows down and starts to curl around. This is our trough becoming negatively tilted. And what it does is allows more moisture up into here. It allows our surface cyclone to strengthen, and you see the winds aloft beginning to pick up. This is Sunday around 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. And you see the nose of this jet now pushing through the Tennessee River Valley up into Indiana. It'll get into Michigan. It'll get into Southwest Ontario here later Sunday, and then really going to swing through the Northeast here Sunday night. And before it does so, we do have a lot of moisture that will be spreading up the East Coast. So this does have the potential to be a significant damaging wind event for some of us here in the Ohio Valley, the Northeast, and the Mid-Atlantic region. Probably not everybody, as we are going to have some instability challenges, meaning there's not going to be a lot of sun, not a lot of heating to get bigger storms to form, but there may be enough energy to counter that to produce significant amounts of wind and significant amounts of rain. So looking at the surface chart on the European, you see the rain pounding the Northwest the next couple of days. This first wave moves into the Rockies here, brings some snow into Alberta, Saskatchewan, Montana, and eventually the Dakotas here Thursday and Thursday night. That's going to exit stage to the right and move up towards the Hudson Bay on Friday. Our next low gets going here. This is Saturday around lunchtime, and we see our front dragging down. So temperatures tumble across North Texas and Oklahoma. We'll be going from the 70s to the 30s in some places here. Not uncommon for early December. Now our low pressure system in Illinois starts deepening. It's 1,008 millibars. And then we see pressures dropping over Indiana down to 998 here late Saturday night. We see a lot of rain here, and then we see a change over to wet snow around St. Louis and eventually Chicago early in the day Sunday as our low deepens and moves northward. It's going to pull colder air down. We're going to have dynamic cooling, and we're going to see a significant amount of precipitation coming down, switching over to snow. And by the time we get to Sunday night, our pressures drop down to 972. This is when the wind really ramps up as the cold air pours in behind our storm. You see the amount of rain and maybe this line of heavy rain and locally strong wind moving through Sunday afternoon through West Virginia, Eastern Ohio, and then Sunday night through Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, Eastern North Carolina, all the way into New York State. And this looks like a very powerful cyclone here as it moves up into Canada here early next week. Deepening low pressure, lots of warm air, lots of wind, sending that moisture up into the provinces of Atlantic Canada, into Eastern Quebec. And on the backside, you can see an all-out blizzard potentially here over northeastern Ontario, over the eastern Great Lakes, and up in parts of Quebec with a little bit of ice in between the two. So a very powerful storm that will follow with some brief cold air. But as it does so, we're seeing significant amounts of snow falling. Here's a 24-hour amount of snow, and we'll see significant snow across the Rockies. Nothing unusual. We'll see some snow in the plains here Thursday night and Friday, potentially 6-7 inches of snow. As this system shears out, it's the big one behind it that we've got to watch. And you'll see on Sunday, the Northwest gets clobbered, but take a look here at the Great Lakes. The European takes a little bit longer to get the snow to fall versus the GFS and Canadian, which have a little bit more back in Kansas and Missouri and Iowa, but they all agree that there's going to be significant snow tracking to the north and west of our low pressure and the potential to see over 18 inches of snow in 24 hours. Maybe even over 30 inches of snow in parts of Ontario. So a very big storm here by the time we get to Monday morning. You can see there'll be cold air coming into the mountains and a lot of details here that can change that we're going to have to talk about more in the next couple of days. Now, on the south side of things, we're going to see moisture building. We're going to see a lot of lightning here, maybe severe weather over the Ozarks and especially across southern Arkansas, Louisiana, East Texas, and into western parts of Mississippi. A lot of lightning here. And the Storm Prediction Center does have a 15% risk for severe weather across all of East Texas, which now includes Houston and Beaumont, all of northern and central and southwest Louisiana, including Lake Charles, Shreveport, Monroe, over to the Mississippi Delta region, over to Yazoo City, Jackson, Mississippi, up close to Memphis, and across central and southern Arkansas. and southeast Oklahoma. This would be Saturday, especially in the afternoon and at night. You can see our moisture increases very quickly here. Dew points shoot up into the 60s, maybe even pushing 70 degrees here on Saturday. And just a significant kind of a spring-like storm here as we get to Saturday. So we definitely have moisture in place. The instability is a little bit more challenging. If you look at the CAPE, this is convective available fuel here, potential energy. That's what CAPE stands for. We do see that amounts do come up here, and they're pretty significant for this time of the year over East Texas and Western Louisiana, but they're not super high. So the threat for this producing widespread supercell type storms like we see in the spring and summer is not there, but the wind energy is there with the jet stream. So I do think we're definitely going to see some severe weather, some hail potentially early on, and then some severe wind and maybe a few tornadoes as this rolls through the area here. Looking farther east, we are going to see lightning out of this all the way up into Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and maybe even Ohio here Saturday night, early on Sunday, but a better chance over the Tennessee Valley states down into Alabama and Georgia. And you'll see this continues off to the east. You'll see there is some CAPE, some fuel in place here for storms over southeastern Missouri. So in St. Louis, we could have thunderstorms early in the day Saturday, and then maybe even a period of wet snow Saturday night as our storm brings in the colder air with it. Again, that can change, but certainly something we're going to be watching for you guys here. Here's the moisture that comes all the way up, dew points into the upper 50s in the Tennessee Valley early on Sunday, even into the lower 50s in Michigan here Sunday morning, before it gets a lot drier and colder here with dew points dropping from the 50s into the 20s here Sunday night. Looking farther east, we are going to see lightning expanding. It does lose some of its punch potentially, but I think we're still going to see strong wind over the eastern lakes, over West Virginia, over western PA and New York. But definitely thunderstorms around the Raleigh area up to about Richmond here later on Sunday evening. This spreads up the Delaware Valley and the Hudson Valley, some lightning up to New York City potentially later Sunday evening. And then we could still see a little bit of lightning here in the Boston area here by the first part of the day on Monday before our storm exits stage right. 1 to 2 inches of rain likely. I bet we'll see 3 in some areas, maybe over Indiana, maybe over Kentucky and downstate Illinois. The rain, while the timing's not great on it, it is needed. So this will help out with the longer term drought. We'll also see significant rain here in the southern Appalachians, 1 to 3 inches of rain expected there. And then in the Northwest, just incredible amounts of rain, up to 8 inches here on the central Oregon coast. And I bet somebody could get a foot of rain here in the next 5 days, even 3 inches in northeastern parts of Washington in the higher elevations. In the Northeast, 1 to 2 inches of rain will be likely. Some parts of Canada could pick up even more than 2 inches, about maybe 50 millimeters of rain in areas east of the Georgian Bay. And some of that, of course, will be snow. And then the look at the Great Lakes system here. And we'll see on the European, first of all, there's some differences between the Euro and the other models. And I'll show those to you here real quick. You can see there will be some snow around Kansas City here late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Maybe more significant snow around Jefferson City, Columbia, into western Illinois. Now, as the day Sunday wears on, we see that snow moving to the north and east, and potentially amounts that get up to 16 inches of snow on yesterday's model in Madison, Wisconsin. Now, today, you see a big drop off in snow, and rather than 16 inches in Madison, we see not even an inch. So just a huge shift in where that area of heavy snow is going to be. Now, the Euro is trending kind of more towards the GFS, which is trending towards the Euro. So we're starting to see a little bit of agreement here, finally, with this being 5 days away. And it shows heavier snow amounts over central and northern Illinois and over eastern Wisconsin, not so much back in Iowa and southwestern Wisconsin. This still has time to change, but by the time it gets up into the UP, you can see potentially amounts of 20, 21 inches of snow, not far from Marquette, more as we get off into Ontario. And on the backside of this storm, there will be some wraparound, but not a major snowfall for Chicago or for Indianapolis or South Bend or Fort Wayne, maybe an inch or two, and locally more in the lake favored areas here. So that's what the Euro is showing. The GFS, on the other hand, of course, has a different look to it, has more snow back across parts of central Kansas. It kind of takes that low a little farther west and brings the cold air down with it a little bit sooner than the European, which takes longer. And you can see as a result, it does keep Madison in on that 8 to 9 inch area of snow. So a big shift here. It's got the heavy snow over Iowa, northern Missouri up into central and eastern parts of Wisconsin. The GFS or the European has it more in here. The Euro is more in here. So there's not a lot of overlap yet, but we're starting to see a little bit more agreement that by the time it gets to northern Michigan, we do see more significant amounts of snow. And then the Canadian model, it's kind of a mix of the two here. It's kind of more in line with the GFS, but does not have any kind of heavy snow for the Chicago area. It has more for St. Louis and more for lower Michigan, north and west of Detroit. So it's still a little bit too soon to call this a big snowfall for the Great Lakes region. I do think, though, by the time we're into Ontario and Quebec, it is a blizzard. So that's one thing I am pretty much locked in on. The other thing I'm worried about is wind, with the European showing some significant wind gusts from 30 to 60 miles per hour, higher amounts over Lake Michigan here. This is Sunday at 6 p.m. Central. You can see winds ramping up over the Eastern Carolinas up to about 50 to 60 miles per hour potentially. And here are the wind gusts that are over 60 miles per hour over the eastern lakes here, as well as over portions of Long Island and over parts of southern New England here. Here's a look again. Winds quickly ramping up on Sunday up to 40 to 50 miles per hour, and then Sunday night up to 60 to 70 potentially. And we also see some significant amounts here over Long Island, over parts of southern New England and eastern New York State here. Here's a zoomed in look at that for you guys. Winds start picking up here Sunday afternoon, and Sunday night they get potentially strong. And this could lead to power outages over a large area of the Northeast and of the Great Lakes here Sunday night and first thing on Monday. Even in Atlantic Canada, we could see some locally strong winds here, mainly by early Monday morning, late Sunday night, early Monday morning, potentially 80 to 100 kilometers per hour across southwest New Brunswick and over the far western portion of Nova Scotia. So more to come on this storm. As you guys can see, there's still quite a bit of uncertainty, 5 to 6 days away, but we're starting to see a little bit more agreement between the European and the GFS. I bet you it's still going to be a couple days before we start to have a better feel for where this storm's going to really wind up and crank up here over parts of the Great Lakes into Canada and the Northeast. Thank you all so much for your time today. If you are not a subscriber, I encourage you to subscribe, as I will continue to provide mainly daily videos almost every day here over the next several days as winter storms continue to threaten. And as always, I want to thank not just you, but thank God for giving me the opportunity to do this. I give all the glory to him. As a Christian man, I feel I've been called to just share my faith with you all. I feel like that's the underlying reason behind why I'm doing this. And that's that God encourages me every day to encourage you. Even though I'm a meteorologist, I feel that it's important to share my faith with you. I was in a spot in my life where I did not have any faith until I was about 30 years old. I'm 41 now. Thank the Lord, though, that my heart opened up to other people who came into my life, who God put in my life, who allowed me to who showed me of the true meaning of why I'm here and what my true worth was in. And that was God's grace, giving me the ability to take the past and remove it and to have a brighter future. I think so many of us just relive the past, memories, things that we did that we regret. We live in regret and we let the past ruin our future. And God says you can have a new future if you believe in Jesus Christ, that he rose, he died for your sins, and you can have eternal life through God's amazing grace. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. And 2 Corinthians 5:18 says, and all things are of God, who hath reconciled us to himself by Jesus Christ, and hath given to us the ministry of reconciliation. And I don't know about you, but I did some really lousy things in the past. I felt I was worthless. I really was allowing the past to ruin. I was allowing the past to dictate my future and to ruin my future. And I was just sick and tired of it. I'm like, there's got to be something better out there. And thank the Lord that there is something better. And that is Jesus Christ, who has allowed us to shed ourselves of those sins and to become new creatures in him as we are baptized in Christ. And I just want to pray for you all. No matter what situation that you're going through, you may already be a Christian, but you may be struggling with your faith. You may not be a Christian. This may have turned you off, and I can understand that. I've been there. But just know that I want to encourage you no matter what. Even if you don't choose to believe in Jesus, I still believe I can encourage you, and I want to just do that. So I'm going to take a moment to pray for you, but I really hope you all have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll chat again tomorrow morning. Have a blessed day. See ya.